Do you see that in many people's eyes?
I do. I see it in a lot of people. I think there's something that God put in all of us, and that's to overcome, to move forward.
Jesus Christ, you can trust him. He'll never fail.
We've seen midgets grow. We've seen arms and legs that stop growing. Mandada basata. I don't make this stuff up.
So are we going to be called away to meet the Lord? But it's not going to be 300 years. We live in right at the coming of Jesus Christ.
You're just a 10-foot tall crybaby.
I'm crying.
It's not so bad. I mean, no, Christians aren't being killed.
No, not yet.
What the Bible says, Leviticus 20:13. If a man also lie with mankind, as he lieth with the woman, they shall surely be put to death, their blood shall be upon them. And that, my friend, is the cure for AIDS.
The notion that atheists are somehow the intelligentsia among us and so forth, I think this is just completely false.
All right, guys, welcome to the Age of Reason podcast. It's Valentine's Day, so happy Valentine's Day there, Mike. Hope you're enjoying your weekend. How you doing?
Lots of love here in Arizona. You know, I'm feeling some love right now, though. At the result of somebody's death, I feel like our world is fortunate for it. Sounds terrible, but
yeah, no, definitely. When I saw the news, it was a mixed bag of feelings. Of course, you never want anyone to pass away,
right.
But somebody like Scalia, some of the things, this guy's done, he said, and the job that he has and that he can never get fired for. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to see what happens going forward, and definitely getting him replaced.
I watched Obama's farewell speech to Scalia earlier today, and it's just obvious that I don't think Obama believed in anything he was saying. He was a heartwarming man, all about change and blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, man, you really don't fucking like this guy, Mr. President.
I think, to be fair, Ryan, and Justice Ginsburg, who's on the complete opposite side from him,
right.
That's like her best friend. So
yeah.
Everything I've heard about him as a person has been good.
Sure.
So I mean, I'll give him credit for that. But as a justice, horrible. Just on the Hobby Lobby case, I know it's one of your favorite cases. His quote for the majority opinion was, well, religious beliefs aren't reasonable. I mean, religious beliefs are categorical. It's God tells you. It's not a matter of being reasonable. God, be reasonable. He's supposed to have a full beard. So
God's getting wilier.
Yeah, I mean, not to mention his quotes on the devil. And how, for some reason, the devil's just not showing up as much as he used to in the time of the Bible.
You know what? I'm in complete agreement with that quote that you just read off. Though I do not find God to be reasonable at all. So I mean, there is a bit of truth to that.
No, but he's saying he doesn't have to be reasonable,
right?
Because he's God, and this is of course, the majority opinion on the Hobby Lobby case. So, obviously an impactful case, but he's just basically saying, it's God. If he doesn't want women to have birth control, that's what he wants this week.
Yeah, we got a fun topic about women and God whenever we're done with this one.
Yeah, so I mean, just we'll do politics a little bit later, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out on the Republican debate. Every single one of the nominees said Obama should not try to appoint somebody to replace him, which I mean, obviously is crazy. And to me, I mean, they're almost hedging their bets, right? I mean,
yeah, they're doubling down that they're going to win. That they're going to win not only the nomination but the election.
Yeah, so that it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. From some of the commentators that I trust a little more, they're saying Obama might try to get kind of a nonpartisan person. That way he goes rather smoothly in there. but we'll see. Scalia definitely extremely conservative.
Right. Well, I don't know about that. I mean, Obama's in is not given a fuck term. I mean, like, and everybody's shouting for Elizabeth Warren, and she would be great, but I really want her as vice president. I really want her to get VP. But I mean, I wouldn't be upset if she went on Supreme Court. That would be amazing as well.
I think that's it's a pipe dream, though. I think, I think honestly, not as much as Bernie is, but I think, and he's not even technically a Democrat, but I think she's almost, and one of the reasons she might be afraid to endorse Bernie is she's afraid of pushing herself out of the Democrats. I mean, she's the only woman senator that hasn't endorsed Clinton. Right. The other ones have pushed her to endorse. And even some of the things that she's came out to say, I think she chided Obama recently about his the TPP and Wall Street and she, not being tough enough on Wall Street. So I think it'd be great. But right. I just think a little more of a pipe dream.
Well, I think if Bernie nominates her for VP, I think the win is there. I mean, the battle between Bernie and Hillary, I think, is going to be a lot tougher than winning the actual election. If Bernie beats Hillary, it's over with. And I don't know why Warren wouldn't want to take a VP nomination at that point. Actually, to your point, it's obvious with her not supporting Hillary who she actually supports, and I think at that point it wouldn't matter. I think she would go. She would definitely take that nomination. And honestly, I wouldn't be upset, as I've said before. Actually, if Bernie or Hillary chose O'Malley, I think O'Malley would be a great VP.
Yeah, no, I agree. O'Malley's. I don't think he didn't endorse either of the two. I think his endorsement towards Bernie would have went a long ways, just because, I mean, he even corrected, Hillary that one time and said, wait a minute. Right. We all know that's a lie.
Yeah, exactly. And I wish he did. But, I think the reason he didn't was because of Chris Cuomo asking him that question during the Democratic Forum. That was a completely unprofessional. I mean, we all knew what was going to happen. We told the story about the one voter that showed up, braved the snowstorm, and still walked away undecided. That's insulting enough. You don't got to ask this guy, hey, man, you gonna go for Sanders or Clinton? Who are you going to send your supporters to when you lose before the Iowa caucus? That's, I don't know. I found it unprofessional and embarrassing and very sad. But yeah, I hope, honestly, I hope if Bernie gets it, if it's not going to be Warren, I think O'Malley is perfect. I think he's really made a name for himself. And I think, I don't think if Bernie doesn't win this, I don't expect him to run again in 4 years, regardless of what happens with Hillary. But I think O'Malley, he's young enough. I think he's set himself up for the next election. If Hillary doesn't get in there and if the next Democrat doesn't get in there and tear it up and just do, phenomenal things. One thing that got on my nerves today, or yesterday, I don't know if you saw this post or not, but a friend of ours went on and said that I put a post up about how in Hillary's defeat speech for New Hampshire, she sounded just like Bernie when she was going over her policies and what she wanted. She sounded identical to Bernie Sanders. Mm-hmm. And during the debates, most notably the last one, most of her applause were coming as she commended Obama for his accomplishments. She would say, Obama did this with healthcare, which, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Hillary had anything to do with that. Bernie Sanders had more to do with Obamacare than Hillary did. He sat on the committee. He was one of the authors of the bill. And she, he's going after single payer, which I think is better, but, she's like, well, we insured 80 million people, and everybody just starts applauding. That happened over and over again. So she sounds like Bernie Sanders in a lot of the stuff that she said at her defeat speech, and then she's really like just covering herself in Obama's umbrella.
Yeah, I think especially from what I understand in South Carolina, Obama has something like a 90% approval rating. So she's definitely,
And so does Bush.
Yeah,
George.
I saw that George Bush is actually campaigning for his brother in that one state. I did see that, but part of the reason I think she's talking like Bernie, and we didn't get a chance to talk about it last week because the numbers were still coming in.
Right.
But he got 83% of people under 30. 83%. I mean that's just blowing her away.
Right.
I don't even know what to say. When you look at numbers like that,
That's this is insane. But this is one of those guys. Actually, I didn't circle back. The guy that left that comment is in that demographic, and I think he wants Hillary, and he said, "This is what we want. We want Hillary to be more like Sanders." And I'm like, "Are you fucking stupid? Just vote for Sanders. Like, just put Bernie in there. Why the hell would we want to put Hillary in there because she sounds like this other guy?" She doesn't sound like Hillary. Yeah, this week. Yeah, exactly. Because, she's been supporting gay rights for the last 40 years. Bullshit.
And I think, that's going to be a problem if she were to win in the general election. She would have to make a decision. Am I going to, follow all these progressive things that I said because I wanted the Bernie fans,
right,
or am I going to go back to my moderate ways? And not to mention the other side can just say, look, she's a flip-flopper. She one day she says this, one day she says that. I mean, Anderson Cooper already asked her that in one of the debates.
Right.
What will you say anything to be president? And I thought that was pretty sharp question. But
exactly. And honestly, what I think she actually will do, I don't think Hillary, I don't think she'll necessarily flip-flop. I think she obviously has access to, whatever Obama wants to, whatever groundwork he's laid over the for the next 8 years or so, whatever plans he has in the works, whatever next steps need to be taken for Obamacare or for demilitarization of the police and stuff like that, which he just started, which is great. I think she has access to that stuff, and I think she'll continue down that and view it as kind of the safe road to basically carry out the rest of Obama's plans, because that's all she's doing. She's riding on his coattails. And actually, fuck that. She's not riding on his coattails. She's like on top of him. Obama, Trump is right. Obama is schlonging Hillary, and she's taking every bit of that guy has to offer this country, and she's riding on it. And it's really making her look bad, because I don't know who Hillary Clinton is. I don't know what she wants. I mean, it's hard to believe that she's identical to Obama. No two candidates are ever identical. I don't know.
Yeah, I think, she just is trying to take the lessons that she learned from getting beat by Obama and trying to, create this new candidate. But like you're saying is what I'm hearing from a lot of people, that they just don't know what she stands for. Whereas Bernie, no matter what question you ask him, he's going to get it back to the rigged economy, and he's going to go back to his points. And that's not a bad thing when he knows his priorities. He's got them set. He can talk about foreign policy. He can talk about different things.
He needs to do better on foreign policy. It's not that I don't think he doesn't have the know-how, because obviously he keeps throwing the Iraq thing out there, and people are shooting him down for it, saying, okay, get over it. We need to talk about the future. That's what Hillary said. That's what her supporters say. And it's like, no, we're only talking about the future we're in because of the mistake that was made in the past that this guy did not stand for, that he saw coming. And he had a premonition about everything that we are currently seeing over there. So I think it's a very valid point that he uses when somebody tells him he doesn't know foreign policy. And Hillary does have the experience. I mean, she has dealt with these things. if you're a smart enough person, no experience, whether good or bad, is going to be wasted. So that's not to say that Hillary hasn't learned from her mistakes and stuff like that. That's all a possibility. But I think Bernie definitely needs to do a better job communicating his foreign policy stance. I think every debate I think really, if I had an unbiased opinion of the matter, he has lost to Hillary on every one of those portions of that debate.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair to say, but I mean, her strength as a candidate is, that kind of commander in chief, and it's. I wonder if Bernie's almost. I mean, he said he's not a pacifist, right?
Right.
But I wonder if he kind of takes more of that route, and you don't want to go out there saying like I'm a pacifist, or you don't want to sound weak.
Exactly.
But at the same time, when you look at some of the points, I mean, he's made right before, not this debate, but the previous one, when they were talking about foreign policy, and they asked him the biggest threat, and he said North Korea.
Premonition again.
And 2 days later, North Korea shoots a long-range missile. So you when you think about that, and she said Russia, I believe.
Right.
So when you think about different things like that, he's actually been right on most of his foreign policy things.
Exactly.
He's just not able to articulate it as well. When Hillary can name the generals of General Akbar from here and General this from here.
General Akbar. From the Millennium Falcon. That's hilarious.
I assure you that there's one of them over there.
I'm sure there is. I'm waiting on news from Senator Palpatine though. That's hilarious.
Oh shit! But no, she does sound a lot stronger. But the other part about the debates that I noticed it in the first time when she talked about Henry Kissinger.
Right.
This time he was ready for it, and he nailed her on it, and I'm glad. He was before my time,
right?
But I've a fan of history, and everything that I see from that guy's pretty evil.
Exactly.
And it's odd that she would bring him up, and I'm glad he nailed it on it.
Well, and her response was, I have many different people that I take advice from, and some I only take advice on in certain areas. And it's like, I don't care if Adolf Hitler made the best peanut butter M&M cookies you've ever had, and I don't care how much you, Alex, have the munchies. I would think you'd be like, yeah, 6 million Jews is a little too much for me to want your fucking peanut butter M&M cookie recipe. Like, I thought that was a very deflective response. I don't think she, again, just like her fucking emails, she didn't acknowledge the real problem that she's taking advice from this guy. And I loved how Sanders stomped her when she brought up his relationship with China. He's like, yeah, trade deals, which has led to, the shrinking middle class and his whole answer was great. I mean, I think he slammed her, and that's the thing. I think Hillary's getting stomped by Sanders, and I think where it really comes in is Sanders is great because you're right. He has these premonitions like he did with Iraq and like he did with North Korea. But I think where people are missing it, I hope people are getting that part of the message. I hope that's resonating. But what I don't know is resonating is if Bernie is the guy that knows actually how to solve the problem. Like, okay, great. This guy can predict everything. Like, he's great at seeing the future, and that's going to help us from preventing more issues. But what do we do about the issues we already have? Because everybody's giving him shit for, asking Iran to work with
Saudi Arabia
and shit like that. And I like his answer too. Look at Cuba. This shit happens. But we can't wait 50 years for these two to talk while we let ISIS operate every fucking vacuum that gets opened up over there.
No, so I agree, but then at the same time, if you kind of let it play it out, who can wait longer, us or Iran and Saudi Arabia?
That's a very good point.
So as it pushes their borders more and more, hey, you might have to make that phone call.
Exactly.
I know we completely hate you because you're infidels.
But these guys are worse infidels. Exactly. That's a very good point. I didn't even think of that. But I think that's where the disconnect is happening with if there's any undecided voter that is only undecided because they're worried about terrorism, they're worried about the Middle East and ISIS and Russia and Assad and all that. If they're really worried about that, and that's the reason they're undecided, is because they don't think Bernie, they don't feel confident that he's able to solve the problem. But one of the things that I will say is I don't think the president is the one that's going to solve these problems. This is what advisors and generals and all these other people are for. I mean, it's John Kerry that's working out a lot of this shit. It's not Obama himself. And I'm not saying that, Bernie should be let off the hook with this. All I'm saying is I think I believe Bernie has these answers. I just think he needs to do a better job of letting people know what those answers are. I think that's definitely one area where he can step up. And I don't think there's any debate about Hillary. She killed him the first few debates on this topic, and now he's getting better, but it's that area is still not good enough. And he didn't succeed with the Wall Street slam like he normally did.
I don't think so. This is almost the third debate in a row where she's tried to brush off the whole thing, and I think he's done an eloquent job each 3 times. This time, the first time she said you were trying to impugn my integrity. Right. The second time she said it was an artful smear. This time she said, well, look, President Obama has accepted millions of dollars, and he's still passing these things on Wall Street. And what he said was, I thought pretty good. He said, look, the American people are not stupid. They said, why do you think these guys spend all their money? I think he's doing a good job. This is, to me, the third time that she's basically tried to deflect the attack. And this is the third time where he's basically made his point even stronger by saying, look, why do you think the banks give billions or millions of dollars? It's just, for fun, or they just they don't have anything to do, and he had a couple laughing points, I think, in this last debate.
No, he did. He was definitely loosened up. That was
so.
Nice.
I think he's hitting his stride, in my opinion.
Yeah,
and
I think you're right. But what I wish she really would have said to her, because she ended that part of her statement with, she said, after she mentioned that Obama had it, she said something to the extent of, "Are you going to blame him or and every other Democratic candidate that's taken donations for campaigns?" What I wish Bernie would have said was, he had a perfect opportunity. She opened a very big door for him to say, not to necessarily blame everybody that's done it, but just to really call back on the decision that he made to not have super PACs and to do that. And he made that point later on in the debate, but I think he really should have made it then, where he's like, he should have basically said, in so many words and much more tactfully than I'm going to say it right now, I'm obviously for the people. You could have made the same decision that I did. You had the same opportunity I did to figure out how you were going to fund your campaign, and you missed the fucking bus on that. I took it. Therefore, I do have every right to criticize you and how many badges you would have on that ugly ass yellow fucking shirt that you're wearing that's just soaked in the piss of your contributors. It would have. He had a perfect opportunity to insult her, like I said, much more tactfully than I would. But he had a perfect opportunity to smear Hillary Clinton on that.
Well, I think that's part of him being just kind of more of a positive campaigner. But yeah, on that point, it's really hard to say, hey, look, the system's corrupt, this is not right, when you're when you're taking advantage of the corrupt system. Regardless of the issue, and I know a lot of politicians are guilty of it, but in this, when you look at the problems of politics lately, you see how Donald Trump's, leading in South Carolina again. You look at, how people are upset with the problem. It's because of the huge amounts of money that corporations and individuals are able to put in. That's the bottom line. If you get that out of politics and you make politics back for the people, then you can have conservatives and liberals or progressives debate the issues and come up with solutions, and not just be tied to what their donors say and just be in the stalemate that we're in now. So that's one of the key, components of Bernie's campaign, and
that's the first thing he's going to do. And he wasn't going to have any trouble getting Citizens United overturned, but thanks to Scalia, he will have zero issues getting Citizens United overturned, because he is going to do a litmus test to ensure that overturning Citizens United is the very first thing we do. And that's that. I've talked to people about Bernie, and they want to know how he's going to get everything done. So we'll start with Citizens United. First off, he doesn't need Congress. He needs the Supreme Court. And we had 3 spots. Now we have 4, right?
They're in question.
The 3 are in question. They usually retire at 79, which Scalia did. So that leaves 4. I don't give a fuck about joking about this guy. I really don't. I like I said, like we said at the beginning of the episode, it's always bad when a human life goes away, but you know what? That guy fucked over a lot of people, and I have no remorse. Anyway, so Bernie shouldn't have any issues doing that. But what I think we should do is, because I said before, I don't want to promote Bernie on here. I think you and I saying, you and I tearing up Hillary when we can, and you and I both being outspoken Bernie supporters, I think is as far as it should go. So I think this next segment will benefit Hillary as well. So we kind of gotten away from this, and it's something that we really wanted to do on this show, but news keeps flying in, and we have all these stories to talk about. But again, we want to give our listeners ammunition when they have these discussions, and we did a great job through episode 5-ish of doing a religion, but I think we should do some politics. So what is something that you constantly hear when you're in a debate with a conservative? What do you usually hear them say about Democrats and why the conservative, right-wing, Republican way is the way to go? And let's try to stay off of religion, I guess, as much as we can. Let's just try to stick with politics. What is something you hear?
I think, the biggest, overlying issue is the different economic systems, right? I think
correct.
Most conservatives will tell you that they believe, whether or not they say trickle down, that's basically the ideology, the economic system that they're putting, that they're betting on. And it's interesting when you see somebody, that makes $40,000 a year, or, is always struggling, and they're saying like, we need to do, basically, we need to give the people on top more tax breaks. So to me, that's the one that I always try to destroy first. And, there's a couple ways of doing it. Number one is just looking at the profits of some of these corporations, and how much they're making. Walmart, for instance, right? $billion industry. I think the Walmart's the money that they make a year, you could put it in the worldwide economy, and it's ranked up there, right? So, but their people are making minimum wage or below living standards, so they're on welfare, they're on food assistance, housing assistance, whatever the case. It's not a conservative principle for that company to be profiting millions and billions of dollars, while us as taxpayers are paying for their subsidies, whether it be welfare or housing or whatever. I don't understand how, that's obviously that's not conservative, because it's coming out of, the middle class, the taxpayers.
Right. It's
coming out of, our checks.
And it's much more than we pay in government assistance. And by much more, I mean by thousands of dollars more a year that we pay in subsidies. And that shit is not outlined on your taxes. Makes you wonder why. For the same reason, when you look at sugar, there's no percentage on it. When you look at nutrition facts on anything in the United States, they don't want you to know how much money is actually going to that, but you can look this shit up. You can look up how much you pay, and I think the difference is you pay somewhere between $400 or $500 a year for government assistance, welfare, Social Security, all that, and you pay around $4,000 a year in corporate subsidies, and that's based on the math of if you make $50K a year. Look it up, fact check me. I don't give a shit. Do it. Here's my thing with trickle down. Again, I'll bring religion into this a little bit. This is what you need to be willing to do when you're an atheist. That religious people are so often apprehensive of doing is when you think something is a good idea and something looks like a good idea, you do it, you try it. And when it doesn't work and you're presented with conflicting evidence that it does not work, religious people are less likely to change their mind. Atheists, we've said before, if somebody shows us proof of God, I think you said in the very first episode, if God like parts the clouds and fucking waves at everybody, like, hey, I'm not an atheist anymore. I want to change my position. I have no choice. And that's the thing with trickle down economics. So if you don't know what trickle down is, real quick, the idea is if you create tax breaks, create these subsidies that I was just referring to, and you allow CEOs and business owners to basically
job creators.
Yeah, we'll say job creators. That's a good idea. If you allow job creators, which could mean pretty much anything as far as the right wingers are concerned, if you give them those subsidies and those tax breaks, they will open more businesses and they'll pay their employees more, and that will grow the economy. That's trickle down in a nutshell. And when you talk about left and right or Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, at their foundation, that's what it's about. Before the abortion, before the legalizing marijuana, before crime, before all of that, the foundation of being a Democrat or a Republican has to do with the size of government, the size of the government's involvement as it pertains to economic policy. That is really what all this is. Everything else got stacked on top of it. But that's trickle down economics, and it makes sense. It makes complete sense. Just like I said last week, beating information out of a known terrorist about a plot that's coming up makes sense. Trickle down economics is a cute theory, but when you add that greed in there, when you add that starving and hunger for more that America has become so much about, it does not work, and we have no laws in place to make sure that greed does not that greed is at least put a cap on it. We don't have that, and Citizens United was taking what little bit of a cap that we had on it completely off, because now they're influencing our lawmakers and Congress and so on and so forth. So 2 days ago I went and saw Who Do We Invade Next, which is Michael Moore's new movie. I know a lot of atheists. I know a lot of Democrats that do not like Michael Moore because he's slanted, and I see it. I understand. I know. People say he cuts certain things out to make his movie sound better. Well, you know what? Every fucking movie does that. Every one of them. No movie does not do that, whether it's a documentary or not. It doesn't matter. But this movie is his best work, and there's nothing I can argue with. Nothing. And some people don't like him because he's or he's pro gun control. Guns aren't even brought up in this documentary. But one of the things that a few of the people that he interviewed in Iceland said about America and what's wrong with our mindset is the American dream is not promised to any of us, but the opportunity of achieving the American dream is promised to all of us. And what that makes us do, what they said in Iceland was, we say we, you people in the United States say me. And that's all that matters. And even the people that don't vote. I was talking to one online last night. I was playing video games, and I was talking to a black guy from Philadelphia. And I said black for a reason. We started talking about politics, and he wanted me to educate him because he has no idea what's going on. And the reason he has no idea what's going on is because he just wants to live his life. He, in a sense, is living all for me. And I was trying to talk to him, obviously sway him over to Bernie Sanders. Like, hey, you want to know what candidate out there marched for Martin Luther King? Like, I was trying to tell him, like, and he's like, well, racism's still out there, but it doesn't sound like it's, as big of a deal. I'm like, no, it's not as big of a deal as it used to be. But believe me, the only reason Trump isn't going after black people is because the Mexicans and the Muslims are giving him more of a stance that he can take to discriminate against them. Believe me, you'll be next.
Sorry, I just remembered a story that happened about a year ago from somebody from Philadelphia. And I'll get back to Trekco economics in just a minute, but I think you'll appreciate this.
All right.
So, I work in production, and this guy a specialist from a certain machine that we're using comes from Philadelphia, and so he's waiting in the office. I work graveyard, so I just got off about, it's 8 a.m. I just worked 8 hours, 9 hours, whatever. So I meet this guy, big, kind of heavy set guy. About 5'8", 5'9". I walk in there and he's like, "Hey, I'm Jimmy." So he shakes his hand. Puts his hand out. I shake it. "Hey, Alex, nice to meet you." My boss was an Indian gentleman, and we work in it's a loud production thing. We have kind of headphones and a speaker, so we can communicate through walkie-talkies. And this guy goes, "Hey, I'm Jimmy." He goes, "I'm a Irish Catholic." Okay. He's like, "You know what that means?" He's like, "That means I pay money to the church so the fags can go to heaven too." I'm like, holy shit. I just met this guy, right? So then he looks at my boss and he goes, "Hey, usually when I see your people with those headsets on, you're sitting behind a Dell computer." He said, "You're sitting behind a Dell computer on the hotline, the helpline." And I'm like,
man.
"Oh fuck!" I just met this guy, and then he's like, "Oh, speaking of that," he goes, "Do you know the connection between Jesus and Hitler?" I'm like, "No," and he's like, "Well, the Jews, they killed Hitler. I mean, they killed Jesus, right? So yeah." So he's like, "So Jesus's plan was to make Hitler and get revenge on the Jews." And I'm like, holy fuck. You know what I mean? This is like within 5 minutes of meeting this guy. And obviously I'm an atheist, and I'm looking at him like, I'm almost offended, even, I'm just like, what the fuck, right? So then he goes on to give us presentation and talk about how women can't read rulers. And part of the problem I had at my plant was that the women couldn't read the rulers, especially the Hispanic women. And I'm just sitting there like in amazement.
You didn't tell him like, just stop.
No, it was pretty funny. I was enjoying the show. But that's a little side note about somebody I knew from Philadelphia. And part of the reason I brought that up as well is I just saw on Rachel Maddow, I think on Friday or maybe Saturday, that Ted Cruz actually has the endorsement of a pastor that believes that same kind of ideology. I thought this guy made it up on his own. But I guess
we talking about the guy from Tempe? Is that the same guy?
I'm not sure if it's that guy.
Well,
but
funny thing.
I'll have to check.
We need to get back to trickle-down economics. We're really digressing, but I want to say this. So I didn't know this, but I read a headline about a pastor that's basically saying that women should not be able to vote. And in so many words, they need to go back to, kind of just being slaves of the husband, like Sharia law. And I didn't know this, but this is the same guy who said that the way to get rid of homosexuality, or the way to get rid of AIDS, is to round up gays and kill them. This is not the guy that we spoke about with Huckabee. Who else was there? Jindal and Cruz?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's not that same guy. This guy, and I didn't know this, he is in Tempe, so he's about 15 miles from me, his church is. And he's the guy that's in our intro that's talking about rounding up gays and killing them, and that, my friend, is the cure for AIDS. This guy's just all over the fucking place. I want to. If I was a braver person, I would double agent myself at his church, just to hear some of the shit that he says. Anyway, we got to get back to trickle down economics.
Yeah. So I got a little kind of game I play when somebody pushes their trickle economic theory. So basically, I'll use you, myself, and we'll use imaginary John is the third partner here. But
does it have to be a biblical name?
Oh, Jesus, all of them are.
All right, John, it is.
Yeah. So let's say you actually, you know what? Yeah. So you, me, and John all own business, right? Let's say I own a furniture store, you own a grocery store, and John owns a hardware store. So if I pay my people a living wage, they're able to go out and go to your store and buy your goods, go to John's store and buy his goods. If John pays
which is called Revelations Hardware, by the way.
If John goes and pays his people a living wage, they're able to come to my store, and which helps me, pay my employees.
Right.
They're able to go shop at your store, which in turn helps you pay your employees. So if you decide you're not going to pay your people what they need to live, just the minimum,
right,
what ends up happening is your employees stop coming to my store and they stop coming to John's store because they just don't have that expendable income.
Right.
So capitalism, I mean, it's based on people spending money and stimulating the economy.
Correct.
So when you have the idea that you as a person are going to spend more into the economy than all of your employees, it's insane, really, and it just shows how kind of far off they are with the whole, the theory. It doesn't sustain. The economy can't sustain itself if everybody just wants to pay their employees the minimum. So the small percent, or I guess that's the 1% that Bernie's always talking about, can gain. That's just, it's not.
No, but it would be correct if you, me, and John were given tax breaks and we opened up another store. But like I said, it's greed. Once you put greed into that, that's when everything gets really messed up. And if you want a good example of this, look at the bonuses that AIG and Lehman Brothers and the rest of those fucktards, look at the bonuses they got. And look how big their banks are today. I mean, they still took money even though they were getting bailed out on a loan from the American people. You don't need any there is no better evidence that greed is rampant, and that is, and the main reason trickle down economics does not work is because mankind cannot be trusted to do so. So therefore, that's why I'm all for social democracy, which is or social programs that Bernie Sanders is going for, because that is how we save capitalism from unfolding the way it did in 2008. That's the best way to do that. So I think we're good with trickle down economics. For me, greed has always worked. That's always been my argument. Your example is perfect. Is there anything else we can say about trickle down?
I think that's pretty much that in a nutshell. Next week maybe we'll bring a little more specific topic to the table and talk about it.
Right.
But I think the basic that's kind of the theory that they always put out there, is that the trickle down, and just give them a couple more tax cuts, give them a little bit more $1 million, and then somehow they'll just make it rain on all the people below.
That does not happen. But yeah, I would like to try to do this once per episode, is debunk something political or something religious. Another thing that I would like to do every episode is answer a question. So we're starting to get questions, and a question that I got from one of our listeners is what did it take, if there was one specific incident or one key moment of your life that pushed you over that fence onto the atheist side of things. I think we've gone over this, but we can answer it again anyway. So, you want to go first? What key thing, when you were still kind of on the fence, pushed you over the edge?
I guess like you said, we talked about kind of the whole transition before. So, the thing that made me come out, I was godless, let's say, for a while. But the thing that made me come out and say I'm an atheist is there was a couple people talking at work about religion, and they were kind of on their high and mighty and stuff like that. And I answered. I don't remember the specific question, but I answered a question that they had asked each other, and they go, "Oh, what religion are you?" And they were kind of uppity or whatever, and go, "Oh, I'm an atheist," and it was the first time I did it. And then afterwards I went home and I kind of thought like, hey, that's the first time I had really said that. And I mean, I felt a little bit of relief, and I've always kind of liked to be the underdog role, so I guess I took on a new battle.
So yeah, maybe I phrased the question incorrectly. I know our high school biology teacher played a pretty big role in this, but throughout the conversations and debates that you two would have, was there a key moment? Or I mean, I don't want to believe that like he was 100% responsible for your transition, but was there like one key point where you were just like, all right, that's it, I'm done, I'm not religious anymore?
It's hard, and we talked about the whole journey before, so I
Right.
don't want to repeat too much, but I think it was just a lot of little steps, and then at some point I kind of said organized religion, I don't believe in any of that, and then
Yeah.
I don't know if I was kind of spiritual, or
Off
maybe
on your own at the
a
time.
deist, for a little bit, and then I got into actually Richard Dawkins, who we'll talk about in just a minute, but he's kind of the first one that from a science aspect kind of drew me into the term atheist, and then I got to Hitchens, and it's all over.
It's downhill from Hitchens.
It's all over from there. But yeah, for me, it was a bunch of little steps, and that's the questions that I get sometimes. They ask me, was there something, that turned you, and I, sometimes I have to tell them that I'm not like angry with God, or it wasn't that, like I felt betrayed by God, and that's what happened. I don't think most atheists have that kind of traumatic, just my whole world is shattered, God must not be real.
Not the real ones, at least.
Yeah. If you do your homework, I mean, read the Bible. That'll make you an atheist.
That'll do it. Okay, well, real quick for me, I think I brought this up. This was part of that reverse pickpocketing Jesus deal. So same as you, I was, I gave up, I gave up any respect I had for organized religion. I was a deist for a while, and it was a lot of small steps. But again, the first atheist decision I made was when I fell upon some evidence that was contrary to everything I believed in, that I could not, I could not reason with in a religious, or in my case, Christian mindset. And that was plagiarism. I could not reason with the plagiarism of Jesus, that he was copied from the whole Old Testament, Quran, New Testament, all of it was just regurgitated puke from religions that took place thousands of years prior. And then when you again look at what God used to be responsible for, which was everything, the further back you go, the more responsibility and involvement God has. And now, as of today, God has none, because in the words of Scalia, the devil has become wilier. But there's, if this was 2,000 years ago, you wouldn't be asked for proof of God, because everybody knew God existed. God showed up on my toast, and God gave me a shirt, callbacks to much earlier episodes. So anyway, that would be my best answer to that question. Again, just like you, it was a journey. It wasn't a leap. It wasn't a jump. It was a lot of baby steps. But that was one of the final things for me. Where also like you said, read the Bible. Do you believe in talking snakes? It's kind of an easy question. But if that's not good enough for you, you look at the plagiarism. That's what did it for me, like overall.
Yeah, and I think, for me, like I mentioned, I think science was a big part. I just took my kids yesterday. The local college had a science day. So that was kind of cool. They got to, make DNA necklaces and build a cell and all that good stuff.
Nice.
Science, I think, the more I explore it now as an adult, the more I kick myself for not pursuing it or not showing the interest that I do now as a teenager or younger. So if there's any young listeners out there, science is the way to go. It's amazing, honestly. I mean, it's like you can just amaze yourself so many times, in different.
What's your favorite subject?
I like me and my son. He wants to be a biologist, so
Right.
so we watch a lot of animal documentaries and things on animals together, and then astronomy is pretty cool.
Mine too. And yeah, dude, you've repeated some things that I've said before. I kick myself every day for not doing a lot of things, in high school, but definitely not paying attention. If I had two regrets of things that I wish I would have got involved in at a much earlier age, it would be speech and debate, and at a tie for that, and a reason for that is because I would have loved to have gone into astronomy. And I wish I would have been an atheist because I would have been having these arguments that I love to have for much longer. Anyway, moving on. What else you got?
Yes. Speaking of science, the great Richard Dawkins, he had a stroke, I think last Friday. So I just want to send out some get well. Our thoughts are with him, and hopefully he recovers quickly. I heard he recorded a message for his followers a couple days ago. Not followers, but Twitter followers or whatever, not worshipers. But
and he's got more than 12 followers.
Yeah. So he was saying he was okay, and the stroke I think affected mostly his motor skills. I don't think it had any like brain damage. So that's good. Hopefully a quick recovery for him. And it was also Darwin Day a couple days ago, so that was cool. It's interesting. Darwin and Abraham Lincoln were born on the same day, so it's pretty interesting. The two great men that changed one our country and the other the scientific world, basically. So yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Charles Darwin.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I was not an atheist long enough, or I haven't been an atheist long enough to go back as far as I think 2010, 9 when Hitchens died.
I think 9. Yeah, I think
2009. I became an atheist in late 2010, and it sucks that I even with music, like my favorite band of all time is Led Zeppelin, and I have a thing for idolizing people and stuff that were done doing whatever it was they were doing before I was even born. So it sucks that like being an outspoken atheist, Richard Dawkins isn't around to speak, because I would love to hear what he has to say now. I would, say, it's kind of the same thing with Jon Stewart. I would love to hear Jon Stewart 4 days a week. I would love to hear what Dawkins has to say, or what Hitchens would have to say now with everything that's going on. Like, for instance, we talked last week about the Satanic Church getting the prayer canceled here in Phoenix. They applied also to lead the prayer in Scottsdale. And the mayor of Scottsdale said, we live in a country that allows freedom of religion, and they're going to come do their prayer here. So
Cool.
I read their website, and their whole thing is extremely secular. It's all about minimizing pain and suffering and realizing, a really good quote that you had. I think it was last week when you were talking about it was the week before when you were talking about realizing that all of us, humanity, are in this together. There's all of us. We're going to succeed or we're going to fail, and that really seemed to be the message of the Satanic Church. So I hope they record this so I can actually see it or see a transcript or something, because I'm sure here in fucking Christian Mormon Phoenix, I mean, it's causing a lot of waves. There was also I think it was a House of Representatives, a House rep over here, refused to join in a prayer that was always custom before they would start a meeting, and he refused. So we're seeing. You said there's always a 1 in 3 chance of a fucked up story coming out that it took place in Arizona. So there's a few tiny wins that are going on here in Arizona.
That's, baby steps, I guess, is all we can really ask for.
Exactly.
We got a couple minutes left. Let's see.
How much time exactly do we have? Because I got a topic that I would like to discuss with you.
We got 5 minutes.
I don't know if that's enough time.
I know. So the one I'll bring up real quick and write yours down. We'll hit it next week. I picked somebody up for a Bernie meeting it was like a month or two ago now, and he had a secular humanist sticker on his truck, and I had no idea, he was an atheist, and I asked him about it. So, you're a humanist, huh? And he said that basically for him, it wasn't worth the time taking the atheist label and fighting Christians and just pissing them off. He preferred to just be a secular humanist and mind his own business. I wanted to get your perspective on that.
I have two perspectives on it. One is I think I brought it up before. A family member of mine is an atheist, and she just wants people to live and don't bother them, and they won't bother me and all that. And it's kind of like the same conversation I had with the guy from Philly. They will bother you. They're in our politics. We have to live in their world way more than they live in ours. And, that is a big problem, especially when you have Ted Cruz's wife going around saying that Ted Cruz is the face of Jesus. Oh, another thing that I pointed out months ago when I said if anybody ever looked like a Christian, it was Ted Cruz, and he should be punched in the face. His wife just confirmed it for me.
No, he doesn't look like a Christian. He looks like the Christ. She said.
Specifically, old Raphael over
face
there.
Of God. Yeah, I'm this quick side note, but I'm still waiting for them to start calling him Raphael.
I think they should.
Eduardo Cruz. I don't know. I was talking to my wife. How he gets Ted, and he moves it to Texas, and then they go, let's Raphael Eduardo. Let's call you Ted.
I have no idea. That would be an interesting story to find out, because why would you choose that name? Ted is just. Look, if your name is Ted, fine. But it's like a simple name. Why would he, with Ted Cruz? Why would he not pick something biblical? Why would he not be John and open up Revelations hardware? I don't know.
Take one of his names and translate it to English. Whatever. Raphael, Eduardo. There's plenty of
Edward.
names.
What's Raphael? There's no English translation to that, right?
Ralph,
that's
maybe.
just the or just the Red Ninja Turtle, I guess. So anyway, that's my first thought on there is that I heard a comedian say this. Ralphie May. Raphael May said this. He said, and I don't think it's actually his quote, but he said, if you don't stand for something, by the time you do stand up, nobody will be standing with you. And that's what I view it as. Another friend of mine brought up that he doesn't like being an outspoken atheist anymore because he found that it pisses Christians off more when you tell them that you just don't give a fuck about God. So instead of saying what we would say, do you believe in Jesus? No. And here's all the reasons why I don't believe in Jesus. And here's why you have a very primitive, childish, outlook on life. Instead of getting into that argument with them, what they found is that if you choose to not argue with Christians and just tell them, fuck God, I just don't give a shit, that they get even more pissed off. I'm kind of okay with that. Like, if you don't want to argue, if you don't want to debate, although I do think it gives more progress, because then you may just sound like a lazy hipster that, God's not cool anymore, so you're going to be an atheist. So there may be that issue that you run, but you know what? Again, they're not the people I'm worried about. The people that I'm worried about are the atheists that don't say anything. You got to say something. You have to stand for something. And this is this is going to be a very key point in history. This time in history right now will be in textbooks 100 years from now. Our great-grandchildren will be reading about the turn of the century, from 9/11 through current, and the civil rights, the second civil rights wave that we have going on with both gays and blacks and Hispanics and Muslims. This is not the time to keep your mouth shut. That's my opinion.
No, that's true, except there's not going to be textbooks in 100 years.
Okay, so
you're going to have technology is going to be
hologram text.
There you go. Yeah, so so that about wraps it up. I did kind of, Bill Maher lit up a joint. I don't know if you've seen that on Friday.
Yes, I did, and that was an awesome episode.
It was. Killer Mike, he's the man. So yeah, maybe we'll talk a little bit about marijuana and some drugs next week as well.
Yeah, I think that's also a very good topic.
Yeah,
I want to get into PC.
I got a little bit of experience. In the,
I have very little experience, but that little experience actually involves you. So you have my experience with that as well. I want to get into PC next week because we trash the religion, the religious and the right pretty often. And I think this is, in my opinion, you can share yours next week. In my opinion, we need to trash liberals on that subject. It's getting way too out of hand.
No, that's fair. Yeah.
Cool. So we good?
Yeah, we are good.
All right. Again, we are done with Instagram. Don't follow us there. Fuck Instagram. But you can find our content on the Age of Reason podcast page. You can follow us on Twitter at AOR_podcast and find everything else, including streaming each of our episodes and subscribing and all that other great bullshit on AORpodcast.com. All right. Thanks a lot, Alex.
All right.
We'll see you guys next week.